Alrighty, guys. Hello and welcome back to the show. So today I'm doing a replay review. I haven't done one of these in a long time. This is going to be one of my replays. It's going down on Eye of the Storm, Forge Alliance Forever version. I personally detest this map. I don't know. I don't know how to play it. I think that's probably the biggest reason. And I've gotten like a lot of really good advice, but over the years, but never at this. I've just never been able to figure this map out. Anyway, so my opponent is Madara, 85, and I'm actually going to pause this for a second because mostly what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be trying to coach some very basic things. So I haven't done this in a really long time, like probably a year or so. My perspective on kind of how you should initially start has changed since I think I did like my last video on it. And plus, I really want to help newer players that are negative, and seeing a negative number next to your rating, especially if you're a very competitive person like I am, is probably one of the most disheartening things that you can possibly see. I really think that they should just do away with negative and just display 0 or something like that. I have no idea logistically how that would work, but I think from a morale perspective, it might help. So anyway, Madara 85, we're going to be looking at his kind of initial build order and giving some initial suggestions. And he goes first air, grabs some power generators, queues up his initial core mexes. So we're going to look at his calm movement patterns. So he's not using distance build here, and he does not have adjacency on the air factory to his first mechs. So this is important for a couple of reasons. We'll talk about the air factory first. If you build this next to a mechs, that means that an engineer that is coming off the line, you can see down at the bottom left-hand side of the screen that this engineer is costing 4 mass per second to create. If you create it with adjacency next to a mass extractor, it costs 3. So that's a 25% savings for free, just for moving the factory. The other thing that he's doing here is you'll notice there's this yellow outline around the commander. This is your build range. So you'll notice that he was able to build these 2 mexes at max build range because the model was slightly inside this yellow thing. But for this guy right here, he has to walk and get right up next to it because the Supreme Commander game engine does not calculate the maximum build range and bring that into effect whenever you're just creating whenever you're creating builds. So how you can abuse this is dropping a move command. So if we moved, let's imagine this guy is the commander. If we move the commander here and then click build using shift, then that is going to allow the commander to build at max build range. So helpful stuff that I think that anybody can benefit from, and it's kind of a feel thing because sometimes you'll be kind of guesstimating where it is, and it's a little bit of a feel thing, but with a little bit of practice you can get it. So he walks his commander to the hydrocarbon power plant, then starts assisting. So I think this guy could heavily benefit from shift queuing more actions. Just kind of across the board. So you can see him shift queuing a good amount here on the factories. This isn't a great template, but it is what it is. And he does do it a little bit with his engineers. I believe he's got some shift queued up. Yeah, so I think he could benefit from more shift queuing because engineers are kind of like your villagers. If you're coming from Age of Empires 2, you don't want idle villagers. You also don't want idle engineers. They always need to be doing something. And shift queuing things up can help you not have to think about that quite as much. Does build out a transport, goes out and drops the middle island, which is it's fine. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. One thing that I would like to see, I think, is you load more engineers into the transport and then using shift, drop an engineer here or 2 engineers here, and then pivot down here and drop another couple of engineers down here, which I think would be kind of the best. Instead, he's walking this engineer down to build a land factory down here. Other thing that he could be doing with this engineer is just while he's on the way, he could be grabbing some of these mass extractors on the way, which I think would be helpful. But by and large, what some of the guys that have coached me in this particular map have told me is that you want to walk your commander to one starting location, so like this northeastern starting location, and then you drop the other starting location, so in this case the southwestern location. Going over to my perspective, that's kind of what I'm doing. So I've got my commander, he's out building mexes, and I do have a good, nice little shift queue set up here for different mexes. I should have dropped some factories here and gotten these 2 mexes. I don't know what I was thinking, but you know, it is what it is. And then I'm actually floating engineers to this middle island. So shift queuing, I think, would be very helpful. Just abusing it more. It's a great tool to have in your toolkit. Some people that are watching this, you might watch me play and think, you know, well, I don't know, maybe this is just my ego, but some people might watch me play and think that I have good actions per minute and that I'm able to keep track of a bunch of things at the same time, and I play very, very fast. I know that if I went back 3 years back whenever I first started playing Supreme Commander and looked at myself now, I would think that I was a pretty fast player. And some people look at actions per minute as like their limitation, like, oh, I can never have that many actions per minute. There's no way. And what I've realized in this game is it's not about how fast you can play. And that's one thing that I think makes this game super special. There are some 1600 level players that put up with me existing in their lobbies and watching their streams on Discord. They're not like the fastest players in the world. You know, if you compare them to somebody like, you know, Jagged or Nexus or any of the other, you know, immortals that are out there, they're not that fast, but they have 600 rating on me. And I think that the reason why is because they think through, they know what they need to do. And if you know what you need to do, you're ultimately going to play faster because you're spending less time thinking about what you need to do next and more time like clicking things and moving around and things like that. So going back to kind of the fundamentals here, he's upgraded 1 mech. He's got a second one that is upgrading. We do have an idle factory. He's also going to Tech 2 right off the bat on his land factory. So this is a little early. An early tech upgrade is great, but this is a little quick because you don't have any units on the map right now that are combat units, like I think at all, right? Yeah, you got an air transport, you got some engineers. Outside of your commander, you have no combat capability. So going immediately for a Tech 2 upgrade is not only, as you can see, putting a pretty heavy strain on the economy, but it is also meaning that this factory is tied up whenever you would more than likely want this producing Mantis in order to, you know, contest this bottom side or defend the northern section, etc. Yep, so never have idle factories. Like this air factory should probably be making scouts and interceptors at this point, or bombers if you want to go aggressive. And then one of these land factories should be making engineers. Another land factory should be making Mantis. So 2 factories on Mantis, 1 with engineers. Ideally, you would want another factory as well. But like I think 4 is probably a good happy medium. But the 3 that you got is fine as long as you're allocating them correctly. So I'm going to bump the speed up a little bit. And there were actually several times during this game where I thought that I was playing against somebody who is actually like 1,000 or 1,200 rated player, because he's got the actions per minute here. Like he noticed my drops, like he was able to come over and contest it, etc. So initially I thought that, and even cranked out some labs. Like that's great reaction, a great reaction there. Initially I thought there was somebody who had created like an alternate account and intentionally sandbagged. So I was a little scared, actually. But going for Navy, and then he's got a hold of this middle section. So I've mentioned this a couple of different times, but in other games right now. But this is upgrading to an HQ. You can see the Q down there in the bottom left-hand side of the screen. So this is actually upgrading to an HQ. And I talk, you know, a lot of people have talked about this on various videos, but I'll rehash it again. Whenever you get your first HQ, you don't need to build additional HQs. You can upgrade these straight to T2. And the reason why you want to do that is if we select this Tech 1 land factory, if we upgrade it to an HQ, that's going to cost us 1,170 mass, so almost 1,200 mass. Whereas if we go for just a straight Tech 2 upgrade, it's 340 mass instead total. So way cheaper. That would be like almost a quarter of the cost of this one. It's also faster by about 35 seconds, and it drains less of your resources less quickly. So great way to kind of save a little bit on that. Also going for kind of like a point defense, naval defense kind of thing. I mean, I think at this point it's his only option. Well, actually, it's not his only option. So I think a better way to respond to this, instead of dropping, instead of spending a lot of mass on defensive emplacements that ultimately you're not going to be able to hold, I think it would be a better idea to get into this pond, like build factories here, or maybe build factories in this little middle inlet, or some other area on the map that you can control, and then just kind of sack this initial position and just be like, you know, I'm going to lose it. I'm okay with losing it. I'll get it back eventually, and then start investing into other points on the map. There is an element of, I think, understanding when you've lost the position and it's no longer valuable or no longer worth it to keep sinking resources into it. And this is, I think, one of those instances. So I'm going to speed this up. Let me see if there's anything else that... Those are the main things that I wanted to touch on. Let me speed this up. We'll go to plus, like, 9 here. See if there's anything else that I wanted to go over. Okay, so he did get some interceptors out. That's good. He is hovering them over frigates, so it's less good. Most of this, you've also had a full mass bar, except for the times where you have not had a full mass bar, and then you've been stalling really hard. So I think working a little bit on eco management would be helpful as well. Go back to overall observer. Yeah, I'm not really sure that there's anything else really to talk about. I took way too long to win this game. Part of it was because I was really scared that this guy was a better player than I think he actually was. So yeah, I went full panic mode, like went T2 land, and I got T2 on my comm and was building a defensive emplacement and things like that. And he's actually got a shield generator back here and is building additional Gunthers. Unfortunately, he doesn't have radar. Okay, so that's whenever you control case, whenever he sees the kind of the massive units rolling in. Okay, guys, so kind of a basic fundamentals tutorial replay review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys learned something. You know, if you're one of the geniuses that gets in the comments of my video or messages me, is like, I knew all this stuff already. Great, you're very smart. Shut up. Nobody cares. Hopefully this is helpful for some newer players. That's really the goal of me doing these, is to help out some of the newer players get better at this game, make the game a little bit more inviting, a little bit more achievable for people, because it is a complicated game. There is a steep learning curve, and it's inherently different than every other real-time strategy game that I've come across. Like your Age of Empires, your StarCrafts, your Total War, you know, all of them are going to be are wildly different in resource management and unit management, etc. Than I think Supreme Commander is, which is what makes it special. So anyway, I'm gonna stop yammering. I've yammered for a long time, like yammering. It's a fun word, yammering. There's my ADHD kicking in. Okay, guys, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.